Thanks for joining in and listening to how Policybox could be used in a employee or candidate onboarding environment in any type of company. So let me take you through just an example of how we've been playing around with it for that type of use case. So the first thing we would do in this environment is we'd make sure that we've got some policies in the system, and I'll go to the sort of master policy area. Um, Adding a policy is pretty easy. You can see I've got a whole bunch in here already. I've already got an employee onboarding policy already set up, so I might just jump into that one. And what we've got is we've got a document. It's the organization's employee onboarding um, document, and it sets out a whole bunch of obligations or things that we want the company to do when they're sort of screening and onboarding a person into our organization. This is a good one because it's got 7 different types of employees that you could onboard, or 7 different levels, and there's different things within this policy that pertain to specific levels. So it's a good one that we've been playing around with to make sure that the system and the AI work really well. And so you can see within this environment, we've uploaded the employee onboarding policy. We could add other things in, so other regulations, state regulations, state laws, if we needed to, if we wanted to make sure that we're referencing those, or the AI is referencing those. We can add in other documents that might be more current as from the organization, or deal with specific business units in the organization. And then we can set master policy rules. And the master policy rules are sort of these rules that are absolutes that we have to do each time. And you can see here, we've already got some built in. There's an ice cream rule that I like to use to play around with, just to see if it turns up. And this one just says ice cream. For any level 5 employee, ensure that vanilla ice cream is purchased for day 1, and they should never have an apple pie purchased them. That just helps me play around with the logic when we're building a matter to make sure that the AI is reading things properly. So you can delete these rules anytime you want, or you can update them and create new rules. Creating a new rule is really easy. You just hit the add new button, and you can see you just start to type in a new rule, and you could add in just a description of it. So whatever makes sense to you, you just put it in, no programming required, and you hit the publish button. Since we've already got some in there, I'll just go straight to the policy system now and create a new matter. You can see here we've landed on the matters page, and we want to create a new matter. So now it's as simple as saying, I want to select the master policy, and in this case, it's my employee onboarding policy. Just choose that. I'll ask a question. I'll say, can you outline steps and workflow for onboarding and screening a level 5 employee? And I think as you ask questions, you'll get used to the questions that work really, really effectively with the LLM and the AI. And good thing about it is once you start to get that sort of cadence moving, it will start to recall your recently used questions. So if you're doing the same thing all the time, you'll just have that saved there. I'll create a new client, or in this case, an employee that we're onboarding. So I'll just make up a name, and I'll call it Jeff Smith, because I'm superbly creative. Now, let me just generate that matter, and it's as simple as hitting the button. You'll see here that the AI is just working through that process now, referencing the documents, retrieving the policies, and we'll start to lay out the steps. Or if it needs some extra information, it would come back to you and ask you for that information. Okay, it's been pretty quick. It's generated a matter, and you can see here that it has summarized the key obligations, um, and it's given some information in the AI chat assistant around how it's come up with that information. So you can check that out beforehand. And it's really said, look, it knows it's a level 5 employee. There's some requirements that it's found within section 4 of the document. So it'll outline where those are. It will say important. There's a police check rule, and there's no manager, executive, or board member may waive this rule because we've got that set as a hard rule. Um, and it'll kind of just outline the things that occur. You can see it's captured that no apple pie must ever be bought for an employee. So that's both a good and a bad thing. And and then it's kind of rolled through the key obligations that you would need to go through, and you can kind of go, yeah, that looks about right. So yes, please. I'd like that to be turned into a compliance matter with tracked steps. And now that will just take that instruction, and you can see that it's starting to, again, retrieve the policy documentation, review it, and it'll start to build out those steps. While it's doing that, you can see it's adding matter steps. While it's doing that, I'll show you a couple of the other things on the screen. We've got over on the left-hand side a toolbar so you can add steps. So if it didn't have a step that you wanted in a particular case, you can just add that step into the process. It has a risk rating. So all matters that go through Policybox, the AI will give it an out of 10 level of risk. And it'll explain what that risk is. You can see here it's finished creating the matter. And you can see here now that it's outlined all of those steps into a sort of a really nice and easy to use practice management system. And now we can start to look at it and go, okay, I quite like that. It's got a pre-commencement police check, enhanced probity checks. The gifts are in there, the risk approval authority, access to provisions. So it needs a risk approval authority form on commencement. And you can see that it has also notified you that we need to start to schedule ongoing monitoring and periodic declarations. So it's done all that. You can see that it's given some text around why it's ranked this as 7 out of 10 from a risk rating. It said it reflects the elevated obligations of a level 5 employee. And so you can adjust that if you like. The good thing about all of the adjustments and the editing of the matter is that it's all going to be contained in the edit log. So anything that anyone changes, if someone deletes a step, it will stop. If it allows it, it'll record it as an activity. So if you wanted to go back and see what's happened, it'll do all of that. You can do really cool things now. So you can say, for instance, can you break the enhanced probity financial and fit and proper step into sub-steps. And so what I want it to do there is, instead of just having enhanced probity, financial and fit and proper assessment all in one step, I just want to break those up because I want to assign maybe separate components of that. And so what it'll do, it'll think about that for a little bit of time. It'll think about what it is that you've just asked it to do, think about the instructions, and it will start to, again, review that against the policy document so that we're making sure that it's it's an accurate reflection of the policies that we have in the background, and it should start to reset the form. You can see always flushes 3 times. Maybe it did it 4, but it will now have broken those steps into sub-steps, and you can see there that it's broken those up into sub-steps. And it wants to know if you want any other further adjustments. So I could do things like also go, can we please add a step to get the employee an apple Hi. Well, I said per, but I think it'll recognize that and it'll say, no, can't do it. There's a policy conflict, so it's unable to add that step. So those hard rules work really well in making sure that they can't be overridden. That would require a policy change, and to make that policy change, that would have to be made in the policy area, which can be locked down to certain people, and also any changes in the policy will be reflected. Now, I like that matter. I'm okay with the risk ratings. I don't want to add any further steps. I think that's all good. We're pretty happy to start working on Jeff Smith as a matter. I might want to do something like assign the team member steps, and I guess that it's a police check. So who better to assign a police check to than good old Batman? And so I'll assign that to Batman. Now that's an employee on the system that will now be sent to Batman and they'll be assigned to complete that step. So I think in a HR or employment onboarding context, that might be you want to assign it to someone in your team, or you want to assign reference checks to the line manager or the recruiting manager. So you can do all of that to make sure that you're not left holding the sort of the can on everything, and that everyone's doing their appropriate jobs and the system's being updated to reflect that. Now I'm happy with that now. I want to confirm the matter, and that matter's now confirmed. So it's kind of locked down, and now we can start working on the separate elements to it. So um, that's a really sort of I guess detailed overview of what you can do with Policybox. And you can do that with any policy, any set of documents, any stream of policy consciousness that you want to work on, you can do that. So if you've lasted to the end of this 12 minutes, well done, and thank you for listening in.